Why is it that you tend to recall better those negative events than the positive one? Perhaps if I asked you what are some positive events, you are probably not able to tell me with description fully of those positive events. You're able to tell me a full, vivid, detailed description of the negative ones. Why is that? When it comes to failure, strong emotions are associated with it. Just in the same way, when you have a negative experience with someone or something, you will recall those negative events more clearly than the positive ones because an emotion has been attached to it. The emotion of anger tends to be the lowest tier. The highest emotion tends to be love, tends to be the top tier ones. In talking about the fear of failure, I wanted to actually talk to you guys about one of my failures, right? And maybe resonate. Okay, let me give you some context to this story so you guys can actually kind of relate in how the perception of fear actually plays a role in your life and how your perception of it, your outlook of it, the outlook on fear will be the outcome of it. For a long time now, I have been training upper body. I just have been training months after month after month. And in those months, I decided to pick up military press. If you guys don't know what military press, I'll probably insert a video of me doing it. And in those couple of months, I decided to propose myself in gradually adding weight to this particular exercise, which is the military press. And upon doing this, I had felt I was ready to use the 25, which is basically you have the barbell, you put 25 here and 25 here, and you lift it. So we've come so far to get to this weight or get near to this weight, and so I think we're ready now for 25, because before 25 we bumped it to 15. Mindful, the little story on this, the week before I decided I'm gonna lift 25 on each side, I was recovering from a misalignment with my neck and my spine. Not my full complete spine, but just like where my neck is. And so I was like, I had just recovered. From the week before, I wasn't lifting the weights. It wasn't my normal routine. So as you can tell now, explaining to you that the next week I decide, I think it's time for me to lift 25. Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea, not a good idea. But anyways, I decided, your girl thought it was right time, I guess, because part of me was like, I've been gradually lifting up this weight, and I'm gonna get to the point, right? Okay, so coming to this day, I decided that we should lift 25, and when I lift 25, one arm, which was the right arm, started gradually lifting it, but this one, because we were recovering, clenched just like this in this position and decided, nope, we're not gonna go down. We're not gonna go up. So I could not lift it. And I didn't want to hurt myself, and I didn't want to push myself more than I wanted to. So based from this experience, from the story, I guess you could say, perhaps I failed. Perhaps I failed lifting the 25. But in that moment, there was two ways I could have gone about it. I could have gone about it like, forget this. I'm not going to lift 25 ever again. I'm not going to do military presses ever again. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's whatever. Or I told myself, I know that we will lift 25 in due time. And it was this definite determination that although I failed in lifting this because I believed I was ready, I told myself in due time we are going to lift 25. My point is that we had these two choices, right? I had this choice where the disappointment, the emotion of disappointment, which we could see on the scale, it could probably range right here near to anger and sadness, right? The point of disappointment was there, but I'm glad I was able to lift something up, because before I wasn't able to even, when I first started training, the barbell itself was heavy for me. And I thought it was easy. You look at it, it's just a metal bar. You think it doesn't have weight to it. It has weight to it, right? But fast forward in telling this, the approach to failure can be different for everyone. When you start to believe that failure is bad, then you will start to see that failure is bad because you have now physically pronounced it and you have believed it in your mind that failure is bad. When in reality, failure doesn't have to be bad. Failure doesn't have to be against you. Earlier I had mentioned how failure has the association of negative emotions. So perhaps in the past, you have remembered a negative event, aka also failure, and you have perceived it as something bad, and all your brain is going to do is look and compile the evidence to why it was bad and to how it made you feel. But the difference is that you can look at your past and you can see how failure affected you in the worst possible way, or you can look at your past and you can see how the influence of failure, the experience of failure, has helped you better overcome any obstacles that have come in your way. If I told you that failure is a data point, what if, because here we're always saying failure is bad. What if I said it's a data point? What if I say failure is just something part of an experiment? If you were doing an experiment, if you're good at science or not or whatever, if you're doing an experiment, let's just say you messed up, or maybe the experiment didn't turn out, was it a fail? Probably yes, it was a fail. You failed. But does that mean you're gonna stop doing the experiment? No, I think it means, where did it fail? Where did it go wrong? Imagine you're in just this laboratory and you're feeding the rats and you're trying to see what type of reaction they're gonna have to a chemical. That sounds horrible, probably a bad example for me mentioning it, but let's just say that. And so you're trying to understand what exactly went wrong and for the reason why it went wrong. And when it comes to the fear of failure, your approach to failure, you're just like, I just don't want nothing to do with failure. Okay, so the lighting has drastically changed. You're probably gonna say, I just don't want anything to do with failure. What if you perceived it a different way? What if you perceived failure to be just a data point, an experiment? The reason to why failure has such an impact in your life is because you allow it to stop you. Because of the negative emotions you have had associated with failure, because of the way how you chose to look at failure in the past, you now decide, I don't want nothing to do with failure. If it comes about starting a new job, I'm good. I'd rather stay with this one. If it's coming about starting a new relationship, I don't want to deal with that because it ended horrible last time. But it's like you're choosing. And here's the thing. It is so easy for your mind to go in the past and look at the negative events and recall them so descriptively, so clearly. It is so easy for your mind to do that. It is because of that emotion, that strong emotion that is associated with failure. But as I said before, what if I said that failure is like a data point? What if I said it's like a teacher, like a mentor? Probably, what if failure was the teacher that you just did not want to go to? If you were ever in high school, if you went to high school, what if failure was just like, I gotta go to math class, just a horrible class I don't want. But what if it was you, it's for you and not against you? And the reason to me saying that is that you allow failure to become the obstacle in your way to even pursuing what you want to pursue. You allow it to become the barrier in your life. So going back to the story, I could have said, I'm not doing military press ever again in my life. No, thank you. I don't want to. Or I can say I'm going to. Notice in the story where I had told you that at one point I couldn't even pick up the barbell. There is that habit that you can train your mind. It's training your mind in that when you experience failure, you can accept the things that went wrong and you can embrace the things that went right. And when you start to first accept the things that went wrong in that failure, in that relationship, in that experiment, or whatever, you will then learn to embrace what did actually go right and magnify the things that did actually go right. Because now you know that from failure, nothing goes to waste unless you want it to go to waste. If it's one thing that I've learned about the fear of failure, is that it influences your character. And something in which no one can take away, only you can build, is your character. Your character. Failure and success can come and go, but how you perceive failure and how you perceive success, either or, both can be an influence on how your character is. So the external factors that are fleeting, that come and go, the one thing that will always remain will be your character, and the one thing that everyone will see is your character. So when it comes to failure, for me, that I've learned is that we're gonna flip this around. Then although things didn't occur the way I wanted them to, although it didn't occur the way you wanted them to, you have the choice to flip it around, that nothing is able to take that away from you. To learn a lesson, perhaps you didn't ask for it, okay, fine. Perhaps it was an L and no one wants to be associated with you because you had an L, okay, fine. But when you have a win, and when you have a win, and you got that win based on the past experience, when you got that win based on when things were bad, but you still perceived, because you didn't allow failure to become the very obstacle, you allowed it to become a lesson for the next one, and that next one suddenly became that win, fine, yeah, go ahead, let failure come. Of course, don't seek it. No one chooses failure, but you learn from it. And it's one thing that I know is that no one can take that away. You get an L, you suck at something, fine, you suck at it. And the thing with failure is that you can look at those around you and say,
oh my god, they said something about me. They didn't like me, and they don't want to take my L's, and they don't care for me.
Because you failed, no one can take away the win that you earned based on the failure that you have used as a point. I believe that failure is like a mystery, that you can kind of keep on discovering how to approach failure. Failure doesn't have to be bad, and perhaps you have believed that failure is bad because of the humiliation that you perhaps gotten. But what if I told you that if your eyes were solely on you, and you focused on where it went wrong, but also embrace where it went right for you, and not let the voices of others invoke or influence your perception of failure, because no, if it's that one thing that's not going to ever be taken away from you is your character. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys stick to the end of the video, I know that there is more to failure, and there's probably going to be a part 2, because failure can be such a broad aspect, and from like a relationship wise, from a career wise, from even being in a relationship with yourself and how you decide to perceive failure. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Double dip and go damn back.